Holy chopped. My hair is crazy, and I have no pants on. I mean, it's not like anyone does in the morning. So let's recap today's trade. I ended up taking a short. I want to recap my confidence in the trade, everything that happened during the trade, because before this, I was actually kind of antsy. And during the trade, I had to remind myself of a few things. So we'll recap that and the trade execution as a whole. I'm not gonna lie, I think you're a little sus if you like squeezing a little water out the tip. You know, kind of gotta be a man and like if you suck it out the tip, pause. That's kind of gay. If you like squirt it, it's kind of gay. So you kind of just like gotta pour it into a cup and drink like a masculine, manly man, or just unscrew the thingy. But let's get into today's trading day. Yeah. So starting off on the hourly time frame, these are all the trades throughout the week, which I need to actually go journal. I'm not gonna lie, like put into my TradeZilla. But starting off on the higher time frame, ignore all the like messy drawings. We were continuing higher. If I go on the 4 hour, we actually had a SMT down here on the hourly time frame. You could see both right here and right here. That wasn't really my confluence in order to go long. I just wanted to acknowledge that. But same thing as every trade recap is the same. Yesterday's losses, even though confidence changes and whatever. The day before, the day before's win, the day before's win. All of my trades are the same, so it's really, you guys should know it by now. Marked out these external highs both here and here. You see on the 4 hour time frame. It'll be a little more clear on the hourly. I also acknowledge that we had this daily high that we could have SMT'd off of. I don't know if we ended up utilizing that as confluence, but I utilized it as a draw. Scaling down on the hourly, this is where our trade idea was made. Once we took out these hourly highs, I mean, you guys can see it's pretty clear. SMT. Swept out liquidity on ES, failed to on NQ. I mean, higher time frame SMT, it's as simple as it gets, but continue to validate this 1 hour bearish fair value gap. I didn't really care. Why? Because I looked at ES once we ended up taking out these highs. And that's why I chose to trade ES today rather than NQ. Let's go scale down to the lower time frames. So let's talk about our execution. Why did we end up executing when we did? How did we execute all the sort? And on the lower time frames, why didn't we end up taking an NQ entry? Now, starting off on the why didn't we take the NQ entry, because if people were looking to go short, majority of people looked to execute on NQ today. However, I looked to execute on ES. Not only did we have that confluence of taking out external liquidity, and I don't know what people will call this, like the dominant SMT, like when it's like this rather than this, but I don't really acknowledge that. I just mainly acknowledge whichever took out higher time frame liquidity. And we had a clear change of state delivery to the downside. I mean, it's pretty textbook. The other day, I mentioned how we did have a change of state delivery to the downside. It was not this day. It was the day before that, right here, if you guys watched that vlog. But I didn't like that change of state of delivery. I still don't like those change of state deliveries. So instead, I looked to ES. But like I said, once we took out higher time frame, I was already looking at ES. I wasn't even acknowledging NQ anymore. Had a clear micro change of state delivery to the downside, executed upon the micro change of state delivery right upon this candle, and look to target internal. Now let's talk about the trade. So I was fine going into the trade with normal risk originally, but this is the part I want to talk about because I ended up actually de-risking a little bit. I don't know what the title says, but this trade was around a $600 win. But with me going in and de-risking, around $50, sure, it could have been more, but who cares about the P&L, right? I've been saying this for a while. Why did I end up de-risking? upon the execution, not risking the normal 200 we usually risk on the first trade, and then if we lose that, risk 100. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't comfortable having another heavy losing day. Now, in normal terms, that would be fine. I'm fine having a regular losing day. But with the lower probability trades I have been taking and those continuous, lower quality losing trades, I was just like, you know what, I'm not, this is a solid trade setup, but in the downturn that, hey, we do get stopped out before looking to take another short because I was adamant on shorts today. Um, I just don't want to have those losses really compound, even though sure my risk reward makes up for it now or whatever the case is. But that was my mindset going into it. So I just de-risked by $50. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's only $50, but it gave my mind ease of comfort that, hey, we're acknowledging our risk, we're acknowledging our trading over the past week, and our risk reward within this trade. Because yes, this was a $600 day, but I have a consistency rule for a payout. So now we got, I don't know. I need to do the math. I don't know how consistency rule works. Don't ask me. But anyways, we had that micro change state delivery to the downside, and then an additional change state delivery. If you would have executed upon the regular change state delivery, one a one point one a one a one point one a one point one a 1.42R. Oh my gosh. I promise I could see it. I just couldn't read it. But if you executed it, that's for the first draw. Anyways, let's go into during the trade and then the draw, because during the trade was the most important part. Now, I was fine seeing retracements here and blah blah blah. We sat in consolidation for a while, but this is where we talk about confidence level, because who cares about the actual trade itself? I want to making this whole thing for confidence, right? In order to improve our confidence, take more trade, whatever the case. I don't know. Anywho, I was confident within my model. I wasn't confident within the trade per se. Now, I did have a little bit of doubt going into the day. Why? Someone may ask, because hey, I didn't want to have another large losing day. And yes, losing days do get to me. Anyone that says losing days don't get to them, they're lying. But it's how you approach the losing days in those times. And this is what gave me comfort throughout the trade, or reminded myself, hey, I'm fine regardless of what happens. Of course, I remembered, my data, but not just that. I remember what I specifically collected data on, which is my model, liquidity sweep, SMT, change of state delivery. And I didn't execute outside that model. The trade I took today was that model exactly. And guess what? I have data pertaining to that model. If I execute upon that model with enough time, I will find profitability with it. And it was just that mindset, remembering, hey, I'm not executing outside of my model, so I don't need to feel fear about it. I don't need to be worried about, hey, what's going to happen with this shit, because it's my model. Allow my model to develop how it develops. And that gave me confidence and ease of mind that, hey, it's out of my control. I did everything I could do on the trading day. And I want you guys to know that too. And if this trade would have been a loss, I still would have been saying the same thing. You guys know me, nothing really changes when I loss. But remember this, once you execute, and if that trade is within your model, to the T, there's nothing else you could do besides letting it do its thing. Letting price action do whatever price action does, right? And what that begins to build, I found, is confidence, allowing you to consistently execute upon your model. That backtesting data is there for confidence to execute live market, but in order to consistently execute live market, the next step is to allow your backtesting data to flourish in the live market. What do I mean by that? Just by letting your model do its thing. Trading, not interfering with your model. Whatever you haven't backtested, don't start doing. Execute upon your model and let your model do its thing. TPSO or break even or trail stop loss, however you trade, right? And that is what allowed me to continue to be like, hey, regardless if I did or didn't have that mindset going into it, I still would have let the trade do its thing. We know, you know, you guys know that. But I just really wanted to acknowledge that because yes, I did have doubt within today. I did want to take a winning trade. I didn't want to lose today, and I want you guys to know that hey, it's fine to think like that sometimes. Um I'm still in the mindset right now that I need a break. And the mindset is that, hey, this is just a temporary winning thing. I'm doing good right now for a little bit. You know, I'm going to, quote, eventually lose this. But that was the old way of thinking when I wasn't putting in the work and I wasn't practicing, I wasn't collecting high quality data, and I didn't have a clear model. I didn't have a clear understanding. But now I have clarity. And that's why I'm uploading these videos to showcase to you guys the rewiring or the breaking of, the negative habitual thinking of, hey, this is just a phase. You're just lucky. And rather making this into a sustainable thing that, hey, you know what you're doing because you did the work involved in order to have the understanding to, right? So now let's talk about draws real quick and what price action ended up doing. This was our first internal draw. Now you guys may be like, well, Lonnie, 1 to 3 R is solid R. Why didn't you just take profit at 1 to 3 R? Why'd you continue to hold? If I'm being completely honest, since we took out higher time frame, I was really looking to at least take out this internal right here. I had assumed, hey, if we were still bullish in the day, the lowest we would go in the day is probably up to this 6,000 level before continuing back to the upside. I'm just saying like the price of where the draw is, right? The internal draw. However, the most optimal trade we can see or optimal draw was that first internal draw. Once we took that internal draw and began to reverse, I understood, hey, I chose to target a lower draw. Price action has every reason up to this point to reverse. We took out internal. We could do whatever we want now. Once we take out internal, we have the means to do whatever we want. Obviously, there's opposing confluence and whatever, higher time frame sweep, blah, 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 right? But once we take out internal, if we want to reverse, stop us out before continuing lower. If we do, we can do that. Or if we, take out internal, reverse, continue back to the upside. That's what we did. And I acknowledge that. And guess what? Price action continued back to the upside. Now, why do we end up displacing so quickly back to the downside? We did have an SMT here. Now, for the people that did end up taking this short on NQ, you did end up getting stopped out. You either got stopped out or break even upon this SMT. Once this SMT formation happened, we continue to validate it on ES and continue to the downside. My confirmation that we would validate this SMT was another micro change state delivery, which is a second entry right here to the downside. Once we did that, I was like, okay, hey, we have probability of continuing lower, and we spooled to the downside. This was within macro, and this trade was within macro as well. Not that it matters, or maybe it does. I don't know. I haven't journaled macro, but there you go. That was today's trade recap. A lot of retracement, super choppy, longer hold. If we wanted a 4-hour trade, which is a lot, I'm not gonna lie. You guys used to see me take 1-to-1s, so 4 hours is pretty significant now with de-risk, as I was de-risked. And trade ran all the way down to these lower internal lows for 6R. So there you go. That's today's trade recap. One last thing, why I think the SMT continued to hold on ES without having me get stopped out compared to NQ was because we took out liquidity on ES. ES had higher time frame, more significant higher time frame confluence. That's why I believe, I haven't backtested it, but that's why I believe ES continued to hold this SMT without stopping me out doing something like this and having NQ be like this. You get it? But I mean, maybe I definitely need more research on it. I'm not sure yet, but that was today's trade recap. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. I need to go journal all of these trades into my TradeZella this week. It was a solid trading week, but we'll recap the full trading week tomorrow in tomorrow's video. I'm probably going to go play Minecraft. Modded Minecraft. If my PC can run it. It can't run it.